Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul.
In speaking about spiritual law, one of my favorite New Thought authors and teachers, Frederick Bales, writes the following: spiritual law demands that one be absolutely honest with himself, never avoiding the truth nor excusing himself, never running away from the disclosure of hidden, unworthy motives, never shrinking from necessary steps to be taken in the conquest of his lesser self. The rewards of integrated living are worth the effort, but it demands a whole life, a complete change of attitudes. I think part of why I like Frederick Bales so much is that because what he wrote here describes how I have approached myself. From very young, I kept a journal where I would face myself on its pages, examining myself and my motives, attempting to be as impeccably honest with myself as I could be at any given moment. For example, working in this way, I became aware of a repeating pattern in my mid-20s. Upon closer examination, I saw that I was the common denominator, not those around me. And in that moment of realization, I became more free. Every time I excavate something that no longer serves, I become more free, more integrated. I'm sure that when you too are being impeccably honest with yourselves, you've had similar moments of realization and of the accompanying feelings of increased freedom, of feeling more integrated. This quote also reminds me again of Myrtle, how when she wasn't getting the results she believed that she could have, she didn't shrink from the necessary steps for her spiritual awakening. She dug deeper within herself to find the places that were out of integrity, those places where she was running away from her own unworthy motives, the places where she was making excuses for her behavior, the places where she was avoiding the truth. And she discovered that the rewards of her more integrated living were worth the effort. We cannot step forward as fully expressing spiritual beings if we aren't willing to embrace our full selves, if we are not willing to own all of ourselves, if we are not willing to be scrupulously honest with ourselves. If we want to express as more love, we've got to admit and look at where we're not loving. We've got to admit where we are manipulative or mean or petty, or where we snub others or look down on them. If we want to express more abundance of anything, we have got to admit and look at where we harbor jealousy and envy, where we diminish or demean. If we want to express more health, we need to be willing to look at where we do not believe in wholeness, really, where we don't trust, where we hang on to anger, where we are unwilling to forgive, where we won't be vulnerable or can't or won't admit that or when we're wrong. And we can't stop doing this work. We can't become complacent. There is no arriving. There's always more to do. The flip side to that is that there's always more love to experience and express. Always more wisdom to be inspired. Always more freedom to be had. Frederick Bales also wrote, "I turn every last thread of my thought to the contemplation of that steady movement of the thought of God in me." Every last thread of my thought. In other words, this work deserves nothing less than our full attention, our full focus. This work deserves nothing less than for us to bring our full selves, not half of our attention while the other half works out a to-do list, not half of our attention while the other half thinks of the groceries we want to buy or what we're going to cook for dinner. The more we free ourselves from the tangle of outdated, erroneous beliefs, our hidden motives, our excuses, the more fully we can express as love, as life, as abundance, as wisdom. The more fully committed we are with every last thread of our thought, the more of ourselves there is to present, to be present with, as love, as life, as abundance, as wisdom. It demands our whole life. So will you enter with me into prayer, with our whole selves, with a willingness to be as honest as we can be about what needs to be moved on from, with a willingness to look at what we know we've been avoiding, with a willingness to finally admit where we've been wrong, or that we have been wrong, or that we've been making excuses, or that we do carry unworthy motives. Will you enter with me into prayer with a willingness to set ourselves free from those things that weigh us down, that bind our wings, that suppress our expressions of love, of life, of joy, of divine creativity? Will you know with me that there is just one life, one beautiful, harmonious life, and that this life is our life right here, right now? Will you know with me that there is just one wellspring of beingness, one fountain of life, one infinite field of limitless possibility, one love, one presence, one intelligence, expressing in and through and as us? Will you turn every last thread of your thought with me to the contemplation of that steady movement of the thought of God in us? Will you know with me that we are the thought of God? This one mind is thinking us into being now and now and now. We are individuations of the one life, and that part of you that protests is the part that still believes that it is separate. Put your energetic arms around that part, embrace that part, and breathe it into you. It cannot be separate. Infinite means that nothing is separate. Will you be willing with me to set ourselves free and thus our world free of anything less than boundless love, of anything less than glorious life, of anything less than abundant peace, of anything less than the freedom to fully savor and enjoy this amazing adventure we call life in all of its glory. And will you be willing to bask with me in our oneness? And from that place, allow a powerful gratitude to arise, and allow that gratitude to wash away any last vestiges of anything that would speak to you of separation. If so, then let it be so, and so it is.
Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Mahakashi Dukha Bhagavad. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Mahakashi Dukha Bhagavad. Sarve, 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 sarve. Om Shanti, Shanti. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu kapag-bave. Salve, 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 salve. Om Shanti, Shanti.
Always, it's a pleasure, it's an honor, it's a joy to welcome you to Unity in Lynnwood. My name is Dr. Richard Loren Held. Always, if you have children, please note that Youth and Family Ministries gatherings are launching as well at this very moment. Credentials are available to you simply by contacting that program's director. Her name is Stacy Bailey. We invite you to avail yourself to the vehicles of support which we have fashioned for you. Of course, visit unityinlynnwood.org, where you can meet your leaders, read recent blogs, enjoy archived podcasts. You may even enlist prayer support and download brochures. Engage with UIL on your social media platforms of choice. You may download the Unity in Lynnwood app. It's free in both Android and Apple versions. Click on the Breeze link in your social media chat window. This allows text reminders and notifications. And as always, if you'd like to stay in touch through periodic email messages, and no, we would never share or sell your information, yet again, click on the link provided in your social media chat window. We will happily include you. If you've been with us for a while, it's a great way to confirm that we have your current information. And always, if you would like assistance with any or all of the above, our staff is happy to assist you. Simply click or call Practical Spirituality. Welcoming community. Short words that speak of broad ideas. And so it is that every week I like to support this admittedly short mission statement with one of the 6 bullet points which we developed in conversation with your Board of Trustees beginning in late 2014. Today we read the 6th of those points. See if this belongs to you. It reads as follows: we welcome people from all spiritual traditions or from no spiritual tradition whatsoever into every activity of our community.
So, Cheryl, this is the day that you've been waiting for, and I know you're excited, yeah?
Right.
Yeah. I have talked to many of your neighbors, and they all absolutely adore you. How long have you been in this neighborhood, in your home?
40-some years. These were all new when we moved here. I feel very blessed. It's been so difficult to try to keep up with it by myself.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm so thankful for the help and feel like what a tremendous blessing.
So I think it's a beautiful thing when a community comes together and can truly reach out and make a change and impact in the person's life. And I think that's what we're doing today with Cheryl Martin. The beautiful part about it as well is seeing our total unity congregation coming together and doing good in the community and bringing practical spirituality to life. Everybody's having fun, everybody's smiling and laughing, and that's what it's all about.
It already looks so much better.
And I know you said you could see your house now.
Yeah.
Which is getting painted, and
It's so wonderful. Thank you so much.
it's been a delight to work with you, Cheryl.
Thank
Just a
you.
sweetheart.
All of your people have been so nice to me.
Yeah, the people at Unity are pretty special. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Kalfas, and together with Tim Vokes and Welaine Sharples and our entire Hands-on Housing leadership team, it makes me proud to be part of a congregation that gives so generously to our community and to those in need. Last August, we came together as a force of good in the world, and together we gave of our time, our talents, our sweat, our good humor, and a lot of energy to truly magically transform a home in the Lynnwood area. We completely updated a person's home, their yard, we brightened a neighborhood, and we truly grew closer as a spiritual family. We've continued to keep in touch with that homeowner, and she's been able to maintain the home, and she'll even have the neighbors continue to drive by, roll their window down, give her a thumbs up, and a big smile. Great work, Lynnwood. It truly is great to be part of this congregation. The photo on your screen is actually one of my favorite photos. It's a beautiful indication of Unity in Lynnwood's practical spirituality and community outreach in action. And we want to do it again in 2020. In July, we announced our September 12th Hands-on Housing project, and we asked you for financial support and opened up the project for signups. Unity in Lynnwood, you responded. And with the same passion and intent that you brought to the program last year, you're bringing that to the program this year. On behalf of the entire leadership team, I'd like to thank you for answering this call to action with our 2020 giving campaign. Together with your kind hearts and selfless giving, we met our goal. Together we raised $750 over the last 4 weeks. The funds we raised are matched by the church and will help us buy personal protective equipment, building materials, landscaping supplies, paint and primer, home improvement supplies, rental equipment, and food and refreshments for the team on the day of the event. So what's next for this year's project? Well, with any big program, it takes a lot of upfront planning, a great team, and we've been doing that over the last few weeks, meeting weekly, and specifically focusing on safety protocol to make sure in this time of coronavirus that we bring forward a safe and protective program. We're also asking the congregation for some items that we may need to help us with the program. That would be equipment to loan, including a pressure washer, a pop-up canopy, and a chainsaw. And then items to donate, and that would be PPE, mulch, we're gonna need about 20 bags, lumber, we need some 2x4s and 4x4s, and outdoor patio chairs, where we're gonna remake her patio for this next recipient. These items will help us defray some of our overall costs and help us bring some nice items to the homeowner, including some really basic things. She's had the home for over 25 years, has never had any interior curtains for the house. She's never really had any interior items for the house. And if we can defray the cost with a couple of these select donations, then we'll be able to provide those for this year's homeowner. And you can, if you do have those available, you can reach out to me, Daniel Kalfas, outreach@unityinlynnwood.org. Today, I'd like to introduce you to this year's homeowner. Her name is Melanie. She's a single female in her 70s with health issues that limit her breathing and mobility. She's been active in her neighborhood and local Lynnwood community over the last 25 years, and as her health has declined, so has her home and her yard. Local friends have actually been helping her with her basic needs, as she's done for others in the community over her last 25 years. In fact, as a gift of community building, several of the neighbors have come forward and said they would actually like to help us in our congregation on the day of the event on September 12th. To keep everything COVID safe, masks and advanced registration is required by all participants. And we're only doing outside projects to ensure that we comply with all the Washington State protocols. So we'll be doing painting, gardening, some yard work, some light carpentry, and truly transforming this home in the Lynnwood neighborhood as well. Active social distancing will be required by all, and we'll have drinks and snacks for all the participants. We have available sign-ups both morning from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, and in the afternoon from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So please sign up online through the Unity calendar. And join us for this year's hands-on housing, bringing love, practical spirituality, compassion to our neighbors in the local Lynnwood community. Thank you, and again, appreciate all your great support through this program.
Thank you, Daniel Kalfas. What a joy. What a joy. If you're an active, eligible member of Unity in Lynnwood and you'd like to be considered for a 3-year term of service on UIL's Board of Trustees beginning in January, please write or call me directly to receive a copy of the job description and the application. Thank you in advance. Your Board of Trustees will also be issuing an update regarding on-site activities at the end of this service. Yes, that's a very clever way of saying stay through the announcements. Now, for those who might be questioning our proximity, Matthew and I have been a family unit for the better part of 20 years. We're good. We're good. Now, this is in a nutshell, you understand. In a pantheistic tradition, I might say that all is of God. The flower is of God, and the dog is of God, and the rock is of God, and that's good as far as it goes. And as far as I'm concerned, it's true enough as far as it goes. But in a panentheistic tradition, while all is of God, God remains greater. The flower might be of God, but God remains so much more. And the dog might be of God, but God remains so much more. And the sun might be of God, but God remains so much more. And yes, the rock might be of God, and yet God remains so much more. To use the classic analogy, the pantheist might say, the drop is fully of the ocean, while the panentheistic would counter by saying, yes, you're absolutely correct, but that ocean remains so much more. The ray is fully the sun. Well, yes, you're absolutely correct, but then the sun remains so much more. And when we listen to such a language, and we tend to find ourselves, at least usually, somewhat uncomfortable, not only with the idea that God isn't a distant male deity located in a finite geography somewhere in the clouds, but we tend to be uncomfortable with the idea that God is the foundational element of everything we see in expressed form. In other words, we find ourselves at least usually uncomfortable with the suggestion that God is the foundational element of us. We find ourselves uncomfortable with the suggestion that we are of God. Blasphemy, our programming screams. We're but lowly worms stricken from God's grace. You remember that interpretation, I'm sure, and relegated to this single incarnation that we might somehow re-earn God's favor in a few short earth years and spend eternity somewhere in the favorable north side neighborhood, shall we say. And yet what I would have you recognize is that this idea, this suggestion of God, not as a distant male deity located in a finite geography somewhere in the clouds, but as the foundational element of you, isn't as unusual as your programming would have you believe. In fact, the idea that humanity is somehow capable of existing beyond the allness of God would leave the majority of our Eastern and our tribal and our mystical, our pagan brothers and sisters as shaking their heads in stunned wonder. A great teacher right here in Seattle once said, "So you think you're the one capable of standing outside of God, huh? How arrogant." It was Spiro who said the same thing. It's not blasphemous to feel and to say that I am the totality of experience. It is a position of love in which everything and everyone are included. What is truly blasphemous is to say I am a separate self. There's a great fable. I don't know the source, nor do I have a copy. But it goes something like this. Somehow it became necessary to hide God from humanity. I don't remember why. And so it was that humanity traveled to the deepest depths of the sea, seeking God. But humanity didn't find God hiding among the creatures and the plants. So humanity traveled to the highest heights of the mountains, seeking God. But humanity didn't find God hiding among the rocks and the birds. So humanity traveled to the endless expanses of the plains, seeking God. But humanity didn't find God hiding among the grasses and the earth. Humanity traveled to the frozen sheets of the poles, seeking God, but humanity didn't find God hiding among the tundra and the ice. Humanity even traveled to the furthest reaches of the galaxy, seeking God, but humanity didn't find God hiding among the stars and the suns. And of course, in the grand climax of this story, the answer reverberated. Where is God? Well, God is hidden in the very place humanity is least likely to look. God is hidden in the human heart. Consider closing your outer eyes for a moment. Let's consider this idea as expressed in some truly enlightened voices. It was Maharshi who said, and I quote, "I cannot show you God or enable you to see God, because God is not an object that can be seen. God is the seer. So ours is to find out who the seer is."
Tat savitur varenia pargo devasya dimahidio yona prachodaya.
Said it this way. Why is it so difficult to find God? Because you're looking for something you've never lost. The finding of God is the coming to one's highest self.
Pargo devasya dimahidio yona prachodaya.
Shanti, has it ever occurred to you that you are seeking God with God's eyes? The truth is that you are what you are seeking. You cannot find it because you are it. You can't look at that which is looking.
Pargo
room, he said it this way: you're looking for God, and that's the problem. That's the problem. For the God in you is the one who's looking. So Shohu said it this way: this is what Jesus means when he says again and again, the kingdom of God is within you. God's in the trees, in the rivers, in the moon, in the sun, and God is in you. Except God, there's nothing else. Even to say that God is close isn't exactly right, because closeness, after all, is distance. He concludes by saying, so don't look for God in the churches, don't look for God in the temples, in the mosques. Look for God within. We just have to be a little calmer. And lest you start to believe that such a philosophy is unique to the further east, it was the Apostle Paul who referenced a famous pantheistic poem by Aratus when he visited Athens. What was originally an invocation to Zeus ultimately found its way into the New Testament, and I quote, "For in him we live, move, and have our being," as some of your poets have said. And it was the great Christian mystic Meister Eckhart who wrote, "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one seeing, one knowing, one love." Now, that didn't go over too well in his day. But hey, the church has since apologized. It only took some 657 years, but better late, as they say. I'm reminded of some work from the brilliant Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith of Agape International Spiritual Center in L.A. If you don't know his work, he's an easy find. He offers four levels of consciousness, shall we say. Now, I don't know that it's fair to say that these levels of consciousness are sequential. I imagine each of us can relate to swimming from one to another to another. The first he calls to me, because there's a level of consciousness at which we tend to play the victim. We tend to believe that life happens to us by happenstance, perhaps, or by mechanisms completely beyond our control, that we have no spiritual authority whatsoever over the quality of our incarnation. I think theism lives here. A fickle outer God controls all. In other words, life is doing me. And the second he calls by me. Because when we've had enough of playing the victim, when we've had enough of discarding our own power to a world that's happy to take it, we start to try. And we come to realize that the spiritualized mind is capable of drawing us into different circumstances than those we've known in the past. We come to experience life as occurring by me. In other words, I'm doing life. A lot of people enter churches in the jump from to me to by me. I mean, I need to pay the rent, So I guess I'll go ahead and try a teaching about prosperity. I need to address my body, so I guess I'll go ahead and try a teaching about healing. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, so I guess I'll go ahead and try a teaching about having life and having it abundantly. A lot of people enter churches because they get tired of playing the victim. Our movement itself has a long history in by me. Our movement has a long history in by me because the founders of systems such as Unity realized and proved, thank God, that a diagnosis didn't have to be the final word, that a circumstance didn't have to be the final word, that a history didn't have to be the final word, that a precedent didn't have to be the final word. Our movement itself has a rich history in by me because the founders of systems such as religious science realized and proved that thought matters, that belief matters, that imagination matters, that forgiveness matters, that the very consciousness through which we express matters. But I happen to believe that life calls our movement to stretch beyond by me, to embrace something more aligned with Beckwith's through me. Life calls us to graduate into the possibility that for all of our personal and egoic getting, there are layers of wisdom and power and beauty, even magic and serendipity and delight, operating beyond the limitations of that personal and egoic self. Life calls us to graduate from a consciousness that knows there's a power that's greater and I can use it, into a consciousness that understands there's a power that's greater and it can use me. Our movement itself has a rich history in by me, and to some degree, I think we're still stuck there. Still thinking and growing rich, still winning friends and influencing people, still summoning that law of attraction for our Cadillacs and our cataracts. Now, it's not that by me is wrong. It's just that by me isn't all there is. Beckwith's fourth is as me. I suppose that in this consciousness there's no awareness of separation. Maybe it's that the personal and egoic self is completely dissolved in its awareness of the divine. I don't know. Frankly, I don't think I'm ready for that one. I like through me. I'm happy with through me. I'm good with the idea that for whatever wisdom I might realize, it's but a hint at the wisdom that would express through me. That for whatever life I might realize, it's but a hint of the life that would express through me. That for whatever power I might realize, it's but a hint at the power that would express itself through me. I suppose I'm suggesting that unity and new thought in general are somewhat panentheistic philosophies. There is a staggering wisdom in you, but the wisdom is greater. There's a vibrant life in you, but the life remains greater. There is a tremendous power in you, but the power remains greater. In the end, it seems to me that Beckwith's model is that of plucking God from his throne on some distant cloud and placing God in its true home right here. Now, I happen to believe that the rabbi Yeshua, he never heard the word Jesus, you understand, was encouraging some of the same when he taught, I and the Father are one. And while the early church leveraged this teaching, among others, to establish Jesus as the great exception, I don't think he was implying any such thing. Like all enlightened or awakened beings, I don't think he was motivated by convincing others of his power. I think he was motivated by convincing others of their power. I like to think that Jesus was teaching the art of affirmation, maybe. I and the Father are one, he said. And And were he teaching today, we might imagine him waiting for the class to repeat the words to his satisfaction. I and the Father are one, class. I and the Father are one. It was his description of what a consciousness awakened feels like. He wasn't boasting, he was modeling. Jesus never intended to be the great exception. He intended to be the great example. He never said, worship me. He said, follow me. Do that which I have done. In the Gospel of Thomas, he was even clearer. He said, when you come to know yourself, you realize that you are the children of the living Father. But if you don't come to know yourself, then you exist in poverty. You are poverty. Ooh. Now I ask myself, as I do on Sunday mornings, why would I tell these people these things at this time? Why would I suggest this? What's my purpose? Is it helpful? This happens every Sunday morning, you see. And while I think there are a number of answers to these questions, the questions I leave you with today and this week are these. How might we be elevated individually by speaking to that so much moreness within ourselves? And how might we be elevated collectively by speaking to that so much moreness within each other? Rumi, in his poem, said it this way: in the shop for unity, anything that you see there except the one is an idol. I speak of plural souls in name alone. One soul becomes 100, just as God's single sun in heaven shines on earth and lights 100 walls. But all these beams of light return to one. And if you remove the walls that block the sun, the walls of houses don't stand. And believers then will be as but one soul.
Om Bhurabhuvasva Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Richard. Thank you, Matthew. I'll be watching this again. And now we've come to the time in our service where we have the opportunity to give back to our spiritual community so that it can continue to fully express as the divine idea that it is, so that unity in Lynnwood can continue to be a force for good in this world. So, if you would, again, go ahead and take your offering and go ahead and hold it in your hand. And whether it's virtual or whether it's a piece of paper, a check that you've written an amount on, go ahead and hold it in your hand, knowing that both are just simply symbols of abundance. During this time of our virtual community, let us unite our hearts as one. And while Matthew sings, shares his ministry of music with us, you'll have the opportunity to tithe via one of the links in the chat box. So close your hands or close your eyes and know with me, know with every last thread of your thought, with all of your power, with all of your intention, with all of you being, that by virtue of your inability to be separate from the one substance, that you are rich abundance itself. You are life in abundance, wisdom in abundance, power in abundance. Indeed, all that God is, you are. In abundance, richly endowed simply by virtue of your inability to be separate. You only need know it, and know it powerfully with your whole self. And know that through the sharing of your abundance of love, of wisdom, of life, of plenty itself, you are, and thus we are, a blessing in this world. And so it is.
All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. In sweet surrender, in sweet surrender. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. In sweet surrender, in sweet surrender.
So we're traveling the yellow brick road again for UIL's Benefit Gala fundraiser, October 24th at 6 p.m. Please note the time change, 6 p.m. Traveling together, we are.
I heard that Dorothy slipped and fell down. Where did that happen?
Well, on the yellow slick road, of course.
I also heard that Dorothy screamed. Is this true?
Yeah, it was because the Tin Man stepped on her toto.
Ooh, and I've always been curious, how did the Munchkins communicate so that the Wicked Witch didn't know where to find them?
Well, in yellow brick code, of course. All right, enough pain. Please know that even if you live far away from Unity in Lynnwood, such as Texas, New York, Alaska, the Southwest, Midwest, East Coast, North, or even if you live just next door, you can have your dinner delivered to your home and virtually join real people at real tables for UIL's Benefit Gala. There's no place like home on October 24th at 6 p.m. Again, that time change to include our East Coast family, 6 p.m. Both virtual and physical seats are available by clicking on the event link on our calendar page at unityinlynnwood.org. We have your well-being in minds and hearts as we plan this on-site gathering. Guests will be escorted to tables, restrooms will be sanitized throughout the evening, and no-touch temperature checks will be taken at the door. How we love and appreciate Julie Newman, Mill Creek Family Services, and John and Barbara Thorpe for being our sponsors this year for our Benefit Gala. And I'm delighted to announce today our fourth beneficiary, Shack Art Center in downtown Everett. Shack began in 1974 with a primary focus to visual arts through youth education programs, artist support services, and admission-free gallery shows. Shack Art Center invites artists at all levels to engage in the creative process It's the place to view diverse artwork from locally and internationally known professional artists, as well as emerging young talents. Learn about art through community art classes and K through 16 art education programs, and create art of your own in Shack's production studios. UIL is honored to direct a portion of evening proceeds to support their noble work in our community. So join us, either in person or virtually, on October 24th at 6 p.m. for Unity in Lynnwood's Benefit Gala Fall Fundraiser. Thank you.
Next week, we will introduce the 5th beneficiary, and then the following week, we will introduce the fund in need. It is a bold and daring idea, really far too large, but aren't those always the best ideas? It's on the first Sunday of September. Today, we launch something new. If you'd like prayer or what we call a divine wholeness session with a prayer chaplain, a Zoom link will appear in your social media chat window upon conclusion of this service. Now, divine wholeness sessions are simply short periods of being held in truth by another. Give yourself a gift that transcends time and space. If you find yourself in a waiting room, use that time to reflect upon an affirmation. How about, I and the Father are one? And if you'd prefer a telephone session, send an email to prayer@unityinlynnwood.org starting now. You will receive a telephone call from an anonymous number. Always, to register for an event, visit the website or click on a link provided. UIL Social Group hosts what we call Zoom Stew at 6 o'clock p.m. this evening. You bring the food. All are welcome. Please register. Spiritual Awakenings. It is Reverend Nina Clark's last Wednesday evening service of the season. You have jumped way ahead there, Reverend Nina Clark. That's okay. Join her this Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. It is streaming at Unity in Lynnwood on Facebook and YouTube. The 2020 Men's Retreat will be held on site in the wedding and event gazebo area, redesigned as a condensed 4-hour work, pray, eat format on Saturday, September 5th from 8 to 1. It's been written, we'll build community through a shared group project, spiritual communion, and then fire up the grill for a relaxing barbecue lunch. Daniel is waving his hands. Bring your lawn chair, work gloves, and an open heart for this special time together. There is no cost we do ask that you register. Our annual women's retreat scheduled for September 25 and 26 with Ricky Byers has, of course, been redesigned as a virtual gathering. The price has been dropped to $75. Everyone is welcome. These are acclaimed gatherings with Ricky and other dynamic presenters. It includes group conversation, experience breakouts, including movement, conversation oracles, and music. Consider creating a sacred space or renting a getaway with a friend for a soul-stirring weekend. White Fragility, the second of our book study and practicums, is nearly at capacity. It will run 6 Sundays, 3 o'clock Pacific, from September 6th through October 11. Please register or you will miss your Board of Trustees. Along with Reverend Nina, consults with a group of area ministers regularly and with credible health agencies and government advisories, and making our determinations for the good of each and for the good of all. Now, while we are extending the cancellation of on-site events services through September, we are tentatively planning to allow 12 people into the Sunday services in October. Now, please note in advance that this opportunity will be offered by reservation only. It will be facilitated by reserved seating. Pre-screening questions, no-touch temperature checks, distanced parking, masking, distancing, and sanitizing are among the protocols which will be communicated in advance and expected of everyone. In closing, we ask your understanding of the fact that we hold this offering as something of a beta test, and that a decision about subsequent months will be issued during October based upon circumstances as they unfold. Whom would you hold in your heart today? My heart opens to those in Northern California, for example. My heart opens to those experiencing oppression. Whom would you hold in your heart this morning? Let's call that image to mind. And let us affirm that the God in which we live, move, and have our being is a God of life, is a God of sufficiency, is a God of harmony, and a God of wisdom. As we hold circumstances in our minds' eyes, let us find a spaciousness within the knowingness of God in which to hold them. This is the gift we give. And we close as we always do with sung words of farewell and blessing.
May the long time sun shine upon you.